Mick, yeah. How's it going, guys? I'm Gabriel Leo. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be doing something different. I'm going to show you guys how to record your vocals and also how to arrange them. The song that I'm going to be using is based on a video which I did a few weeks ago called Corona Season 2. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go and watch it.
Okay, so let's start recording the main vocal.
I don't mind to be inside, even though it is painful. We're still confined, don't intertwine, cause all the work would be wasteful. My body says it's not okay to stay at home. What can I do in season 2? It's still unknown. Yeah. I'm not trying to be rude or be brute. If I could, would remove all this trouble. I'm too tired to hide, you do too, can't deny. Where is my stuff double?
Just before we start going into arranging vocals and everything, I wanted to talk about a little bit of how you should record your vocals. And mainly, you should start checking your sample rate. You should check first your sample rate to make sure that you can hear your vocal at the same time to when you're recording. You don't want to hear a delay when you're recording. So what you should do is you should go on your preferences and you go on audio and you check and you try and put it as low as your computer can kind of hold, because the lower the buffer rate, the more CPU your computer is gonna waste. So yeah, make sure you check that. Another great thing that Logic has is this low latency mode, where if you press it, it's gonna turn off. Not exactly turn off, but it's gonna do something to your sense. I don't know exactly what, but it's trying to save some CPU. And you should always use this whenever you record. Just make sure that you don't get any pops due to your sample rate being so low, because that will happen in some of the recordings. And the best way is to go on this little arrow, and I have it on custom, but you press the customize button, and you can see here modes and functions, and you turn on the low latency mode so you can see in your actual session. And one last thing, which is to make sure that you press this little I button, which is called input monitoring, which means that when you're recording, you can actually hear yourself, or even when you're not recording, if you just have that on, you can hear yourself talking on the mic. Okay, so far, all I've done was just I recorded the vocal that you guys heard earlier, and I re-recorded twice to have and this is called double tracking. So the vocal, like having 3 vocals, will always be more powerful than just having one in a song, especially if they're doing the exact same thing. Is you don't really get an effect of a choir, but the vocal becomes more present. And as you can see here, I had to re-record a certain section specific, so now you have 2 files of audio. So what I'm doing here is this thing called fading and crossfading, which helps removing the click noises to when the audio file has finished. And as you can see here, it's really easy. You just select what you want in this bar, and that's it, guys. Okay, so this next trick is more for organization, and which is something that I really like to have in a session. I don't like having random stuff everywhere, because that just makes you just waste time finding stuff. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a group just for the main vocals and the double tracks, and I'm just selecting a color, and as you can see, I have that number 2. So whenever I want, I can just solo or mute those vocals. Okay, so the way to do is that you choose your 3 tracks, or whatever the tracks you want. And what I do usually is I press Shift, Command, and D, or this way, like I showed you, and you create a track stack. Okay, so from now on, we're gonna work more towards the arrangement. And what I started doing was recording high falsetto vocals, doing the same melody, so it would be an octave above. I'm singing exactly the same as the main vocal, but just an octave, and this will make the song fuller and more interesting to your ears. And for this BV or backing vocal, I'm gonna do 4 times, and I'm gonna pan it in different ways. So 2 of them are gonna be closer to the center, and the other 2 is one of them is gonna go hard left and hard right. And I'm doing this just to get symmetry between the vocals.
My body says it's not okay to stay at home. What can I do in season 2? It's still unknown.
Another thing I like to do when I have these kinds of vocals is I want them for all of them to kind of be at the same level, or at least one of them not to pop more than the other. And to do this, I use a compressor on my group, like I show you guys how to do it. So what I do is I put a compressor in the group of these vocals, and this will help making a sort of a glue. I like to think that I'm gluing all of these vocals together, but to try and avoid the vocals or one of the vocals to pop, like I mentioned earlier. And then what I did was I EQ'd a tiny little bit of the vocals. I felt like with the compressor they kind of stepped back a little bit from the track, so what I did was I just boosted around the 2K 1.5 just to get more presence in the vocal. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some ad-libs, and this is similar to the BVs. This is going to make the song more interesting. Some people like to call this kind of stuff ear candy, because the kind of stuff that if you really pay attention to the track and you're focused, you're going to listen to these little details. So I always think that this is more for the people that are really into this song, and it's just a way to reward them. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is the importance of adding rooms to your vocals, because this is going to add the whole ambience in the space that I usually hear in a song. You don't want your vocals to sound dry. So yeah, definitely put it in a room. Usually what I do is I put it in sends, and just because I think it's the most effective way for me to control how much do I want to send into those rooms, instead of just having the room inside the channel strip. Another thing that just happened just by chance was I just decided to make this little lead hook that kind of drives the verse. And it just started with me just recording the idea. And then I start playing a little bit with the format shift. And what this kind of does is like, it kind of alters your voice. And you can do it a lot like I'm doing here now. Or you might just do it just a little bit, you know? Okay, I wanted to show you guys another trick for you to save some CPU. As you guys just heard, like there was loads of pops happening, and this is because I just have a lot of tracks. I mean, it's not that many tracks, but it's mainly because my computer just like can't take it a lot. So what I usually do is I freeze tracks as a way to. So pretty much freezing is. So pretty much what freezing is, it's like, as the name says, it's freezing the track. So it's like you can't really do anything with your tracks besides changing the sends, because that's not on the actual channel strip. but yeah, it just prints the track, and you have more freedom with your CPU, and you can keep recording stuff. So now, as you can hear, it's not doing any pops anymore. Another thing that I really like to do when I record vocals and BVs is to record oohs and ahs, because they're different vowels, so they fill up the frequency spectrum in a different way. And I think that is a really interesting trick. And this is all of the takes for my oohs and ahs. Bear in mind, this is not properly mixed, so it doesn't sound amazing, but you can kind of get the idea of where I'm going towards. Okay, this next trick is more of a mixing kind of trick, but I thought it was cool to show you guys. So I'm just using like a delay, and it just makes it more interesting. So the way for me to do this is I use a send on my channel strip for my main vox, and I send it into a bus, in this case bus 20, and this is where my delay is going to be. And what I did was I automated to when I wanted the send to be active and also muted, so that's why you can see these little things like up and down, and some of them say muted and the other ones are just down. That means that the send that I'm doing to the delay is being closed and open.
If you guys found this video helpful, let me know in the comments section if you would like to have more content like this. And like all the other videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you're always notified whenever I release new content. That's it for now, guys. Ciao, ciao.